Everybody, I'm Dr. Bosworth and welcome to the Dr. Boz Show. It is Sunday night and I have a great show lined up for you tonight. I am actually depending on your interaction, so the first thing I love to see is that you can hear me okay. Each week I feel like I make progress in not just being a good physician, but also how do you do the technical things to give folks like you information in a mass audience to a group of people that just have been so helpful in my life to join me as I increase viewership on this channel and then educate more patients through a YouTube channel than I've done in 20 years as a physician. So thank you. I love the comments back that you can hear me loud and clear. Awesome. So again, I just have a couple of things. I'm going to do some housekeeping. Throughout this evening, we're going to have a major question that I'm asking you to answer. We have some of the tried and true folks already commenting. Thank you. I've got some folks from Queens, New York. I actually have a medical license in New York now, as well as in Florida. We are still praying about Texas. That's my other dream, is to do some work in these 3 states, and we're waiting for that final licenseship to launch out of South Dakota. I am coming to you live from South Dakota in my clinic. I actually kept my coat on tonight because it's cold. It's really cold here. And I have a great show for you tonight, but I might have frozen to death the whole time without a coat because I've had the heat up, but something isn't getting all the way back to my office or something. So welcome everybody. I am going to ask a question and we're going to watch some of the comments and it's going to be a big part of this show. So I really want you to take a minute to not just give this video a thumbs up, give it a recommend. A moment of praise that we almost have 200,000 subscribers to this channel. Just about 14 months ago, it was 1,000. And I just said, I really find I have to teach this subject in a way that's bigger than just my clinic. And I started using a YouTube channel and it's become a beast of its own, I guess. Each Sunday night, I really do work towards getting a message that I think would be helpful to you and that will engage the audience and move them to the next level. So I really love this topic about why people quit keto. And I want you to help me by sharing, why did you go keto? And really reflect just a minute to say, what made you go keto? And I'll tell you a little bit of my story. I'm going to do that while I do if my fingers aren't too cold, to check my blood sugar and my blood ketones. It's just become a little tradition on the show that I check this and then show you my numbers. It keeps me accountable, but it also is a great way to say, yeah, even the doctor checks the numbers. Just because I've been keto for a long time doesn't mean I guarantee to have a good number for not just blood sugar, but ketones. And I have a metabolism that keeps score as well. So I like to use the time on the show to just to kind of imprint that everybody should check numbers. You should find a rhythm that allows you. Here's my ketone number, 1.2. My fingers are so cold that I can barely get the blood out of there enough to check the sugar. Let's see if that's enough. Oh, I don't think it's going to be enough. Here we go. It's much easier when I do this to a patient instead of myself. Oh, there we go. All right. So again, here's the other half of that. But checking your numbers, a huge deal. If you haven't joined us as somebody who fills in the spreadsheet and keeps track of your numbers, yeah, blood sugar 96, ketones 1.2. So I know better than to do math on live video, but somewhere just south of 90 would be my Dr. Boz ratio. That looks at my insulin, that looks at my insulin resistance, and as we look at the ketogenic diet and how it has improved thousands of people's lives, it is the folks that get stuck. It is the folks that quit, that I spend lots of time reflecting, how can I reach them? How can I help them through what their fallout was? So tonight's show is all about the the stories and the just the literature that I've looked through saying why do people quit. Some of this has to do with kids who have seizures and why they quit, but I have my own audience of patients that have started and stopped the ketogenic diet, and so I have lots of that part of information as well. All right, so let's keep going. I really need you to comment on why you quit. We're going to go over to the slide deck, and so you won't be able to see the comments, but I'm going to come back and read the comments as I close up this this discussion. So please comment. Why did you go keto? What made you start? And it's going to be a big part of how we bring this full circle. So let me go here. Let me go here. And let's see. All right, so we have one more thing that I wanted to cover. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't mix my ketone drink. That's what the other thing I do on the Sunday nights is the beginning of my fast. So you're going to see me launch this into my ketogenic week. I used to not use the supplements on Sunday night, but I had lots of people worried what the supplements were going to do, and almost to the point where the education about the supplements became, let me demonstrate for you what it does and how to take some of the fear out of. I am not a big supplement person. I will tell you my first 10 years in medicine were in Utah, which is one of the supplement capitals of the world. So I had an initiation into medicine where lots of supplements were used for things that didn't have evidence-based. It takes a lot for me to get on board with some of the supplements that are out there, but the literature about what a circulating ketone can do for patients has transformed how I use them. So throughout that, it's not as clearly written in the book that is the one out there, which is Any Way You Can. But the book I'm writing is going to have a lot more about what these ketones do and then how can they be used in a way to help patients. All right, so we've got the ketones ready. We are going to do a little announcement that you might already know about. And this is the Keto Summit. The Keto Summit is coming up in a few short weeks. I get to travel south to go to this Keto Summit in South Dakota. The state right south of us is Nebraska, so we think of it as balmy there. So I get to travel south January 10th and 11th, and we will be in Omaha, or just in one of the suburbs of Omaha, Nebraska. And I'm really excited about the group of folks that are gathering at this summit to teach patients about the ketogenic diet. And some of them have been my teachers. They don't know that, but I needed to find evidence based on how I was going to not just transform my clinic, which I didn't plan on, but how I was going to help my mom who had cancer at the time. So here's some of the lineup that's going to be lecturing at this summit. One of them is the high intensity health host, Mike Mutzel, and he joined me actually at the Metabolic Health Summit in LA last year. A really great guy, great information on his channel. I have sourced several of my patients to go to a couple of his lectures and say, just listen to this conversation. So he does a great job. He's lecturing. Then we have Danny Vega. He went to Puerto Rico with me. He has been at several of the events that I had been at, but never did I get a chance to really engage with him until I had gone to Puerto Rico recently. He has an awesome approach to how he helps people, not just with athletic performance, but using a ketogenic diet. Very connected to the team down there in Florida, which are some of my favorites. I read a lot of the research from Dom D'Agostino and Ryan Lowry's team, and he's almost like in step with their teams as well, but not in their companies. He has his own. So he's great. You know, Robert Keyes, I can't wait to meet him actually. He was one of the first people that I listened to when I was trying to find, is there any bariatric surgeon out there that really has engaged in the ketogenic diet? And although his lecture is going to be on keto for kids, boy, he has some really insightful just frustrating journeys of how do you change behavior in somebody when they've been overweight for that long. So I'm not overly, I don't know that he'll know me, but I'm super excited to meet him, to listen to his lecture, and then just thank him for the education that I received free through YouTube. Actually, I think a couple of them I paid for, where I had bought the package for understanding the ketogenic health, science-based health curriculum from, I think it was the one out of Cape Town. Dr. Adam Nally, I have watched him lecture a couple of times, and we've shaken hands, but never, again, at these summits, sometimes the speakers are like the people that are the furthest apart to be able to engage and really meet one another. But he did a huge service of educating people with, on a podcast. He was Doc Muscles. I'm trying to think of the podcast. It'll come to me. I know him well. Jimmy Moore, thank you. Jimmy Moore, yeah. They were co-hosts, I think, for maybe 2 years, and weekly podcasts about how he struggles with certain problems of the ketogenic diet in his clinic. Again, I've sent patients to that podcast to learn about just listen to somebody besides me, and you'll see that these lessons are repeated over and over again. Jay Morales, I've never met, but he appears to be the MC of this host, and you can see by the pictures he is a ketogenic believer and has had great results with it. So I don't know his story very well. This guy is amazing, Sean Baker, Carnivore Diet. If you look at this picture, I don't think does him justice. He is amazing. He is an Air Force soldier. He is a orthopedic physician. And he has been committed to just performance-based medicine while being an orthopedic surgeon, which those don't often go together. I know that they take care of athletes, but many times the surgeons aren't as athletic as you want them to be. And Dr. Baker has just a profound impact on teaching the ketogenic diet, but also demonstrating in his own life how to advance his health. Dr. Ken Berry, my colleague, we've known each other a couple years now, and he is a new father, but he will be speaking. And then the star of this event is Jamie Seaman. She is an obstetrician who is also called Dr. Fit and Fabulous. Her origin story for getting into keto was she had metabolic syndrome. She had a family history, and here, like many physicians, working hard, doing everything right, following the rules, and found herself with a metabolic syndrome, went ketogenic, not only improved her health and the health of her family, her daughters, her husband, but in many ways similar to my story that you said, oh, once I really engaged in this, I couldn't help but share it in my clinic. This is every day in my clinic that you see patients that could be better helped with nutrition. How simple is that? All right, I have one major ask. Last week I introduced the product that's on Amazon. A C8, C10 is the soft gels that I have added to the list of products that I do put my name behind. I put my picture and my name behind. And I asked everybody to, if you've bought them, please leave me a review. And I just checked right before this show, and there are no reviews for this product yet. I'm totally gonna shamelessly beg, saying this is a huge launch for me to put the products out there, and I do that in hopes to have enough revenue to support this channel and keep going with as much free content as I can possibly give. But this is a definitely dog-eat-dog world, and in a ketogenic way, on Amazon. And reviews mean a ton. So if you could give back to this channel by leaving a review. They don't let you leave a review unless you've bought the product. I have talked about C8, C10. I did a really good job of outlining why this is a very powerful fat inside the book, any way you can. And then I use this in my clinic. There's not a product that I make that I don't use in my own family or in myself. So C8, C10 is, there's no sugar substitute in that one for the soft gels. It is the best fats out there. And my husband takes about 4 capsules of those in the morning and about 3 capsules of the BHB capsules. He's allergic to stevia. Stevia is found in the keto combo and that max strength keto BHB. He cannot take that. He gets mouth ulcers instantly and kind of, yeah, awful. So he takes the capsules because he's allergic, but he's also very healthy metabolically, so he probably doesn't need as much as the power in the max strength keto combo and the max strength keto BHB is much. It is a powerful powder, and the capsules are going to be for people who have a stronger metabolic strength. So you've been keto for a while, you probably don't need the powders as much. And I will just say one more time, if you can leave an Amazon review, it makes a huge difference to this channel. So thank you. All right, so we are going to get to the topic for tonight, which is we're going to take the top 5 reasons why patients quit keto. All right, so if you've been around, maybe this is you, maybe you've had a loved one where you shared your experience and said, look at how much better I feel. Come join me on this experience. And maybe they followed you for a little bit and then they fell off. They just couldn't, for some reason or another, they quit. So if you look at my goal, which is trying to help them, you first have to understand why they quit. So we're going to count down from 5. So I love this one. So many times when patients go ketogenic, they do it for a goal. A lot of times the goal is weight loss. I mean, it is an incredible chemistry shift that if your body has ketones like mine just did before I took a supplement, that 1.2 ketone is before I had a supplement, you will find that you have the chemistry to slim off that weight, especially if it's been around for a while and you've got a thick middle. Boy, there is nothing better than lowering your insulin. You cannot lower insulin without lowering ketones. And they'll slide that weight off like that. Now, unfortunately, if they've had an insulin problem and they go off the ketogenic diet, it doesn't take much to get that weight to slip back on. But many times, this is an easy one. They reach their goal. And you know what? Great. Can carry on, come back if you need it. That's the nicest one of these. The next one is tradition. This is like, I can almost hear the musical where they sing about the Jewish tradition. What's the one that's got Matchmaker in it? I'll think of it. My kids were actually in it, so I should know this. I think I know every one of these songs. But the men are singing about how important it is to do things, and they don't really know why, but they do them because of tradition and the traditional process of eating bread and carbs in the form of pasta, as well as a sweet taste after every meal instead of just a little bit of sweets maybe once or twice a month. This tradition is where so many of my patients fail. The number one reason that actually kids go off of, or I would say teenagers, come into a ketogenic option for seizures. Seizure disorder, really difficult, lifetime of taking medications. And you've got those teenagers who could have the improvement by adding a ketogenic diet to their medication or to their treatment plan. And when they walk in and hear that they cannot have bread, some of them just get up and walk out. It's very entertaining to listen to some of the neurologists saying, yeah, that's where we lose a lot of them, is they are so ingrained that the bread, the pasta should be a part of life. As a young wife, I had made supper for my husband. We'd been married. We got married and then I was in residency and he lived in one state, I lived in another, so it didn't really feel like marriage yet. But so one of the first times when he had moved, we'd lived together and I was making a meal. And the meal did not include, it didn't include meat, but it also didn't include any potatoes, pasta, or any type of starch. It was filled with fat, and oh my goodness, it was the biggest fight ever because this is just not a tradition. This is not what you do. And I find patients fall off the wagon when they can make a change for a short period of time, but the pressures of the tradition are very, very difficult. You know, I like to point out some of the other tools that I've put out there You can read the book any way you can, and that's great, but there are lots of people that don't have time for that. Their brains really aren't healthy enough to read, and I don't mean that in any way except kindness. Like, they're really sick. So one of the little guides that I put together was this quality eating guide, and it is made out of this cool material that can be wet. It can last in you drop it in the snow around here and it's still gonna work, but it's kind of expensive to print it. So I tell them that it's actually more expensive to buy the fridge guide and this little book than it is to buy the 300 pages of the book. But that's a whole reasons why that transition of getting people off of what is default. Like, I get up in the morning, I have cereal. I'm like, no, that's not part of the plan. I get up in the morning and I have my coffee with sugar in it. No, that's not part of the plan. So as soon as you start messing with their traditions, and then you give them the overwhelming task, and I mean that kindly, of reading a book, that doesn't happen. Sometimes you can get them to listen to a book. Sometimes you can get them to watch a couple of short videos on YouTube. And if they are looking for our playlist at the Dr. Boz Channel, it's called All Things Keto, and they're really short videos, like 3 to 5 minutes. Maybe there's a 10-minute one on that playlist, and it is there to quickly educate people that just their brains aren't working well. But this little book does the one thing that I've used to help with this problem, which is just like my alcoholics and my other addicts, or my patients with diabetes, my patients with sugar addiction, they are not going to wake up tomorrow with the perfect choices. They're going to fall off of the wagon. So we start with harm reduction, good, better, and best. So each of these sections of food has, these are some good options for a ketogenic life. These are better, and these are the best options. And I tell patients, do not reach for the highest part of the tree. Don't go for the best options on the ketogenic diet. Start with the low-hanging fruit that you like. I use that example of buffalo wings, the ones with the skin on it, and then the spicy sauce, not the sweet sauces, and then dip it in blue cheese. I mean, fat, skin, tendons, and then there's a little bit of meat in there. Very ketogenic meal is chicken wings or buffalo wings, if you would. Looking through the different options in this book has been something where they cannot focus on reading a full book. They can get a handbook. They can put it in their purse, and the next time they say, oh, I really want something, I don't know what to order, I don't know what to reach for, and they use this little book as a way to help get them away from the defaults in their brain, which are the traditions. One of the weekly things I do is I host a support group here in my community, and week after week I find people that have come to the meeting for a while, they haven't been, and then they come back. And of course, where they disappeared to was they fell off the ketogenic way, they weren't doing it, and they just couldn't find their way back to group because, it's hard. It's hard admitting to the people around you that you screwed it up or you didn't stay with it. That tradition of sharing their failures. I don't know about your community, but in the upper Midwest and South Dakota, we do not have the tradition of saying, let me tell you how I failed. No, they don't do that. They hide. They go away and they try not to make eye contact. But if you're their physician, they come back for those prescriptions. They come back for the next time something's not going well. And often it is a difficult time for them to say, guess what? You aren't alone. You fell off the wagon and so did I, and here's how you do the next step. That little book is made out of that really non-terrible, very high expensive paper because we want it to last. We want it to be at the bottom of their purse or the bottom of their backpack, and then when they say, how can I feel better? How can I feel the improvements? And then they find this old tattered book that didn't fall apart, that didn't dissolve in water. And I've had patients say, yeah, I bought your book when I was really excited, or my friend gave me one of those little books. And then I realized, okay, I really need to help get back on the wagon here. And it's a quick guide. It's a quick set of rules. All right, so number 3 is side effects. I'm going to do this in 2 parts. The 2 side effects that people fall off the ketogenic diet is they do not make the transition correctly. You look around my clinic, and if they've had that 20 pounds, 30 pounds of weight on their body for the better part of a decade, yeah, you're going to have a shift of your chemistry that is dynamic that first week. In fact, in the ketogenic history books, we would put people in the hospital to induce this ketogenic state when we were treating them for seizures. That seizure disorder is not a thing to play with, but when we would see all of these transitions that you could see a patient go through, the first place that we would admit them to the hospital to induce them. They would fast them for 72 hours and get them through the toughest parts of this, and then before we'd let them go. So we don't have you do that anymore. I mean, you can do the ketogenic diet, but there are some rules. There are some very powerful rules about the side effects. And in recent weeks, probably the last, I would say 5 months, I have had my patients that I know are insulin resistant, that have a family full of the traditions from the good old Midwest, potatoes and pasta at every turn. I've said, I don't want you to change a thing about what you're eating. I want you to read a few chapters or listen to a few videos, and then I have them drink supplement. In fact, it's the one that is just ketones, this one here, just the ketones BHB. I say put these ketones in your circulation. And what they are doing is they are exposing their cells to ketones so that the ketone can then go from the outside of the cell to the inside of the cell. It's a receptor that if your body hasn't seen a ketone in years, it's pretty sleepy and it's not in very good shape. To get from where they're starting, which can be really difficult, especially my insulin-dependent diabetics that they have been here for a while. I need those receptors awake. They don't have to be in the best shape, but they need to be awake. And that means you need to expose them to ketones for that 4 to 5 day period. So I tell them, don't change a stinking thing. Let me check your labs again. We're going to see you in 1 week. And between now and next week, I need you to have 1 to 2 scoops that you sip on all day long to get those ketones in circulation. And you'll go to the blogs and say, what are the negative things about this type of supplement? And they'll say, oh, you just pee them out. I'm like, yep. Everybody pees them out the first time you take them. That, just like when you drop those carbohydrates or you ask a patient to fast, and then you have them pee on that urine stick and it turns pink. Why? Because the ketones were wasted even when you made them. Well, why did you waste them? Your body peed them out because the receptor that takes them from the circulation to inside the cell wasn't strong enough to move them into the inside of the cell where they can be burned. That process, it takes exposure of the cells to the chemicals, and that's what is in these supplements. It is a huge shift of how I approach a patient now compared to about 3 years ago when I said just 20 carbs or less. 20 carbs or less is still the plan, and I don't play the game of the modification for fiber. Nope, fiber, not fiber. I'm looking at total carbohydrates, not net carbs, 20 or less, and we do that until I get you through these side effects. When I ask patients to do the 1 week challenge of 1 to 2 scoops of that BHB, especially if it's the second time around, they almost come back irritated saying, why didn't you have me do this the last time? That was so much easier. And it was, again, the practice of medicine. You learn, oh, this is so much easier. They don't fall off the wagon. They really are able to transition. And the reason why is when you go to drop those carbs to 20 or less, your body can make the ketones, but if that's got a lazy or a little sluggish receptor and you can't burn the fuel, you're peeing all of it out, that's when they get that heaviness, and they call it the keto flu, and their brain really sinks because it doesn't really have enough fuel, and it's awful. And that's where I lose a ton of patients from the sustained life of a ketogenic journey, is they fall off the wagon because they never get through that. The second place they fall off is if they get through that, their body has other health problems like Diarrhea is a terrible one, and I know people don't like to hear about it, but I don't even notice when I talk about stools anymore because it's such a common part of being an internist. The side effects of chronic diarrhea, because their body cannot absorb fats, and the reason is it's an unhealthy gut. From the gut biome to the cells that are leaking out more vitamins than they are absorbing, the chronic swelling from high insulin that has really plagued their body and their brain. Those side effects become the enemy. And if I can't coach them through that, if they can't read about it quickly on my blog or go to a video that answers the question, they give up. And I will tell you that is almost always the people that need the ketogenic diet the most. You know, again, why do I ask patients to do the ketogenic diet? They really reduce that inflammation. They improve how those cells turn over. Set aside the cancer benefits, just that reduced inflammation. I can stop prescriptions more than I start them if that inflammation is controlled. And you can do that if you get the right chemistry coming in through your nutrition. All right, side effects are a big topic there. That was a little longer than I wanted it to be. The second one is better, but this is still very common, is you will hear patients say, I stopped because my endocrinologist told me to. Oh, that's awful. I stopped because the nurse at the cardiology office told me to. I stopped because the kidney doctor told me to. I mean, no one better to point to than Dr. Jason Fung, a nephrologist who sees broken kidneys all day long, and such a strong advocate for the ketogenic diet. The professional warnings are, it's hard. It's really hard for folks like me and Ken Berry and a whole bunch of the people that are going to be at this keto summit that have said, I'm going to step over the threshold and tell you what I tell my family to do. I'm going to show you the products that I have my family take because this is life-changing for my clinic and for the patients who follow it. You know, it's why I do encourage people to go to these summits if there's one near you, if you're looking for just the comfort of saying, all right, a whole bunch of people do follow this, not just like the mythical on YouTube, is this real? But you're going to see the professionals who we've all taken a risk of saying, yep, we know this is not in the guidelines. Yes, we know that this is not what the journals have said for the last 50 years to tell patients, but I am telling you, I have never had more fun in medicine than using the ketogenic diet to improve the health of these people. So again, I encourage you to come out to the Keto Summit, and Dr. Fit and Fabulous is going to be hosting this. She deserves the praise for all the work she's done in her area, and I would love to meet you. All right, finally, this is the big moment. The last question is number one reason why people fall off the ketogenic diet. And this is actually one of the first chapters in my new book is the why. Why are you ketogenic? It gives me goosebumps. Why are you ketogenic? What made you go ketogenic? And if you have not seen that commitment through those difficult times, I want you to analyze, why are you ketogenic? If it is just to lose a few pounds, congratulations, lose a few pounds, and they move on. What I am committed to is if I can help them connect their why are you ketogenic? And if it is strong enough, it will hold through those temptations of tradition, of the difficult times where you're looking at something that used to be your comfort friend. Food was my comfort friend too. And then knowing that my why is strong enough to get through that. You know, it isn't an accident that fasting and prayer go together. This can be a very spiritual thing when you get to the moment where you can, you know, go get drunk on carbs, and I mean that, just go binge right off a cliff dive off the ketogenic diet, and then have that heaviness, that hangover, that sluggishness just hit their head for the next 2 or 3 days. When I look at my why am I ketogenic? It's a very personal answer. You know, the first reasons I started was because of my mom. I knew she couldn't walk that journey alone. And the book really outlines my commitment to say, I didn't do as well as my mom. My mom did way better than me. But then she got better, and I didn't need to be ketogenic. but I could not believe how helpful it was for my patients. And you know, doctors go to school a long time, and we give up a lot of things in the first 2 decades of our educational years to say, I really want this long-term goal. And we don't do it for the money. Yeah, I know there's doctors out there that do have a strong desire for money. But most of us are here because we really wanted to leave a legacy of how can we help other people. And I looked around my clinic and couldn't believe how little I had helped them. Yes, I wrote their prescriptions. Maybe I helped their depression a little bit. I might have done a few things in preventing some diseases, but those are always the lack of a problem is hard to see. It wasn't until I started saying, I'm going to coach people on the ketogenic diet as an internal medicine physician and put forth a goal that says, I want to stop more prescriptions than I start. That's what drove me. And you know, I do this fasting thing every week. I start fasting on my Sunday nights. I now put BHB at the beginning of my fasting, mainly so I can check my numbers on this show and show patients this is not a dangerous thing to add to your legacy of life, which is intermittent fasting. Don't do it at the beginning of a ketogenic diet. Get keto, get stable on keto, then graduate to intermittent fasting. But when I started publicizing, if you would, showing people that yes, I go 72 hours without eating some weeks if that's what it takes to get my blood sugar low enough and my ketones high enough. And that is how my body will repair and gracefully age. That's what I want my children to see. As I go through a tough time, I don't binge on food to feel better. I pray and I fast and I dive inward. So those examples to patients, to my children, and then to be a supporter of my mom, who continues at 75 years old to be cancer-free and off of chemotherapy because she does a great job of tracking her numbers, of really sticking to the ketogenic diet. And she fought all those traditions when she was 71. You know, I'm much younger. It's easier for me to say, I've got a better reason to do this. And it's even better for my kids to never have those traditions. So it is that altruism that sounds kind of goofy, and I'm sure it sounds fake to some people, but it's truly a part of who I am. And when I get to that moment and I need to say, why am I really ketogenic? I don't need to lose weight. I feel okay. It's because of that, because of what I want to show my children, show my patients, and the fun of being in a clinic that gets to truly impact the health of patients. Not just the fake news like I'd been doing for many years, which was following every guideline, but not really changing a life. All right, so I am going to hop out of here just for a quick minute because I want to see your answers. All right, so here is, let's go over here. All right, so I am going to scroll back and you won't be able to see these on the side. So if you want to repost some of your answers, you'll be able to see them on the side. Let me take a quick drink. All right, and I'm just going to go back and look at some of them. So what is the reason why you are on the ketogenic diet? And I will. So there is Anita Allen says, I started keto because I felt miserable. I had L2, L5, and bulging discs and fibromyalgia and not sleeping and in constant pain. I started the ketogenic diet in 2019, lost 52 pounds. The pain is gone. I have energy and I sleep like a baby. I mean, that just gives me goosebumps. That's amazing. But that is the comment that I hear from patients over and over and over again. They get past the tradition. They allow themselves to say, you can live without bread and pasta. And then they use some of the tricks and tools that we've used on this channel. And I've tried to give lots of examples to say, just let me do the lift at first. And if you fall off the wagon, to do what I do when I fall off the wagon. Add BHB the next morning. Increasing the circulation of ketones suppresses your appetite. It increases my energy. Yes, the first 2 weeks you're going to go through a container in like a week. But then I keep a container at the house, and maybe I use a scoop. I mean, I have a drink on Sunday nights before my fast in front of all of you, but maybe I use it, once a month, twice a month, maybe. And it really isn't. It's not that hard. I don't fall off as much anymore. As my traditions become better, as my why am I ketogenic? I continually remind myself, I'm doing this to show my family, I'm doing this to be an example to patients, and then the joy of reading comments like that. Busha Busha is the tag name for somebody, and she lives in Queens. I think that's so cool. I don't know why I am fascinated with Queens, but I am. It's like a mythical place. I've never been, but it's in like all the best stories. All right, so Busha Busha says, I also went on the ketogenic diet to heal my gut. She was allergic. She had shrimp, lobster, and avocado, which are real allergies. That's not a thing, but allergies are very much related to your immune system and how your white blood cells are handling certain situations. Not every allergy, but those allergies too. In my youth, I never was allergic, but I noticed this allergic response at the age of 25. And I've watched Busha over she comments a lot, that she continues to improve her health and make a fascinating journey of restoring what was a healthy young woman and now has become a lot harder for her. All right, so I'm going to go to some of the ones that are just posted recently. Thank you for filling them in again. Okay, so let's see. I am working on, so I have Lori Leek who says, or Lori L, I'm working on getting my Dr. Boz ratio to come down from the 400s to less than 150 so that I can be healthier. The ratio gives me insight into my insulin, and that's an important key to being healthier. And again, so some of the teachings that I do on the show are specific for patients to use that as part of their why. That I wish I would have known 20 years ago that if patients wanted better health, less cancer, that telomere length in their DNA to be longer, that their Dr. Boz ratio really needs to be lower. And when it's been high for a long time because nobody taught them that, nobody knew how to talk about that. The tests were related to money and coverage and insurance until we had the ability to prick your finger and get information for you during the story of how do you improve your health, as well as teaching the doctors. If you do the spreadsheet, it teaches me really easily. But even if they bring a list of papers in and I look at their numbers, it doesn't take long for me to get a sense of where their metabolism is. And it's based off of just pricking their finger at home. That's such like power for the patient, empowered to say, here's the rules, do it. And when they fall off, help them get back on. Be a part of a support group. That's a big part of what my book that I'm writing is about, is how do you create the energy of a support group, because that will change our country. All right, so let's go to some other ones here. Again, you're posting, why are you ketogenic? What is your why? So here's one by Blaine. Says, as a type 2 diabetic, I have lost a good deal of muscle mass. How can I regain muscle? I'm now skin and bones. Okay, well, Blaine, so one of the things, actually I was just writing about this, the protector for muscle to be broken down is your ketone level. So I don't know if you watched last week's, or there's a story about, I have ketones for the old and the young and the fat and the skinny. And I talk about the difference in their metabolism and how looking at their spreadsheet really tells me, the physician, how do I approach this? And when the ketones are low, it allows your body to break down the muscle for nourishment. If you can have a ketogenic state that's higher, It protects the body's ability to break down that muscle and turn it into the amino acids needed to spin through for some energy. So if they've lost a lot of muscle, and we do not like that. My mother, a cancer patient, I didn't want her to lose muscle. I didn't understand when I first started this journey with her how important it was for her to keep those blood ketones above 1, and how protective it was for her aging body to not use that resource within her system. Having a high ketogenic state, having a low Dr. Boz ratio is how you protect that muscle. Once you've got the weight off that you want, be very careful that your skin and bones isn't a reflection of the traditions that we have here in South Dakota. South Dakota says if you lose 50 pounds, everybody says, oh, you look like skin and bones. I'm like, nope, he's actually still 30 pounds overweight, guys. Don't be telling him that. But to lose the weight in a setting where their Dr. Boz ratio is lower, it protects the body by reaching for the fat calories that are stored in their body and not using the protein that's stored in their muscles. So it's a really good question. And again, that spreadsheet that's in the show notes, it has the glucose ketone index, which is what all the research is based on that this information comes from. That requires a little bit more math. And I have folks use just the metrics to come up with the Dr. Boz ratio. It's a little simpler, easy almost to do in your head. And it correlates to the same data just using the metrics we use here in America. And it is powerful. It is powerful to say you don't want to lose any more muscle mass, Blaine? Then check your ketones. Do it regularly. Specifically check your ketones at the same time you do your blood sugar and get that Dr. Boz ratio at least below 80. And you'd love it if it was a little higher. If you go back and watch the show from last week and the one a few weeks before where you look at Stacy's story and you look at Jerry's story. Again, the old and the young and the fat and the skinny and the physically fit and the diabetic. Great comparisons. And I'll tell you, Jerry's numbers, he was the older, he was the fatter, he was the less athletic. His ketone numbers were way higher than my young, fit, athletic woman who was really struggling with some chronic inflammation. And she was about to make a transition of metabolism that was not going to be the best for her long term. So, all right, so I am going to let the folks continue to read some of those comments. I'm going to close out on my fingers are so cold. I'm going to poke my finger again, but I hope I can get some blood out to see what it is at the end. I'll try to warm it up a couple more steps before I do that. I want to finish out by showing you these final slides. Okay, so let's go here. Let's go here. All right, so again, the top 5 reasons why people quit the ketogenic diet. They reached their goal, that's great. Then they had tradition, and we've spent a lot of time talking about that. They had one of the side effects, and again, we have some great videos on my channel and on other people's channel to say, use biohack, use the science to get through that side effect. The professional warnings are getting less when you go to your cardiologist and he tells you not to eat a high-fat diet. It's very confusing for patients. So going to things like the Keto Summit and other places where you can see the doctors who are the rapid changers. Sometimes we get it wrong, but I do think there is a huge movement of people saying this is how we get patients better. So checking in with those places, checking out videos like this, referring them to other videos are ways to help them bridge that time when the professional says don't do it. And then the last reason, what is the number one reason people quit the ketogenic diet? And that's because they don't know their own why. It's not strong enough. It isn't enough to help them through that difficult moment. When I ask people why they want to quit drinking and they tell them so that my wife stops chirping at me, I tell them we're not going to make it. That's not going to be a long enough reason. You're going to get to a moment where you crave that alcohol and your wife's opinion is going to go right out the window. We have to find a better reason for why you want to quit. And then write it down, put it in the show notes today, put it in the post today. It just is a great way to claim to the people. Nobody's going to read it but me, probably, I don't know. I hope you guys read one another's, but just know that it's a very major transition when people make that switch. All right, so the next thing I want to remind people of is to please leave an Amazon review. Again, we support this channel by the book sales and by the sales of the supplements that I have on Amazon. And it means a lot to me to ask you to do that, and then to see if I can get at least some reviews. I know I asked last week and not one person did it, so please, of the 200,000 subscribers, please leave an Amazon review. Again, if you're looking for the perfect Christmas gift, this is the book I wrote, Any Way You Can. It is 300 plus pages of a really good story. Find that in your bookstores. If you can go to the bookstores and say, I'd like the book by Dr. Annette Bosworth. There's only one, so they will find it. The word anyway has no space in it. That is actually for marketing reasons, not for grammatical reasons. But if you go and say, just type the word in anyway with no space, they'll find it. And every bookstore that orders it just gets the word out, spreads the word. And it really is an awesome gift to give somebody the hope that their health could be just like the gal I read about a few minutes ago. I have had it translated into Spanish and to Chinese. You can call this slave labor because my son, 13, translated the one into Spanish. It turned out really well. His Spanish teacher checked it and said, oh, this is a very good job. And then I have a foreign exchange daughter who's been with her family for 2 years from China, and she translated it into Chinese. All right, so those are just some of the things I wanted to touch on before I went back to the big screen, and I'm going to poke my finger and hopefully have enough in that it's really cold in here. All right, here we go. So again, I do this at the beginning and the end of the show in hopes to show you that improving your ketones isn't just something I talk about. It is something I do myself. So having a ketogenic life isn't a plaything. You actually should be measuring it and watching to see what. So yeah, the ketones now are 1.6. And blood sugar is about the same. I think it was 97 at the beginning of the show. So again, as I raise those ketones, thanks to that supplement, I did not have any supplement before the show though. That was where my ketones start. And then my blood sugar, 98. I like to say that this does give me stress that everything goes right on this channel when I do this show. And I'm freezing right now. So I'm going to sign off as Dr. Boz, improving your health one ketone at a time. And ahead of time, I'm going to say thank you for everybody that's subscribed, given me a thumbs up, and really spent energy helping me spread this word. I look forward to reading your reviews, and I will see you next week. Until next week.